Hello and welcome to episode 47 of GameSpot After Dark. I'm your host, Jake Decker, and joining me this week is Kallie Plaguey.
Hello.
Michael Hyam.
What up?
And Jeff Bakalar. How you doing?
What's going on, you guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We actually, we teased it last week, and a lot of people in our Discord, or a couple people in our Discord were like, excited. They were like, ooh, Jeff Bakalar's coming on. I can't
just two? That's just two?
Yeah, just two.
I was two.
Yeah.
Just the two? All right, I'll take what
three,
I can get.
No,
and Michael. Michael was one of them.
Hey. Oh, man.
They were excited.
I miss you, Jeff. I see you once every year. Every CNET party at CES is our time to gather.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize we don't see each other sober ever.
Well, I see you on the stage, and then I probably like give you a nod or dap you up, and then
like I said, we never see each other sober.
Yeah.
Except, well, actually, no. This is a podcast where we drink alcohol, so never mind.
One day we'll get to know each other as sober people, but
I don't think
now's
so.
not the time for that.
No.
Drink responsibly.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, we start this show off with, well, sometimes we start this show off with the Chris from Dayton, Ohio segment where we basically introduce our guests. So the story behind this, which I've said many times, and I'm sure our listeners are tired of it, is that when we started this podcast, we did a couple episodes and someone wrote in and was like, I don't know who the hell any of you are. Could you tell us a bit about who you are, what kind of games you play, what you do, what you like to do? Doesn't even have to be games, hobbies, whatever you like, honestly.
Wait. Before you begin, Jeff, sorry. There's a little theme song that goes with the Chris from Dayton, Ohio segment. I would really like to sing it for you.
Ooh.
Ba-da-ba, Chris.
That's our guy.
That's it.
That's it. I think I've said it before, but I don't even think Chris listens to this podcast anymore.
That's fine.
Damn.
Little did he know he started a revolution.
I know. Prove me wrong. If you're still listening, Chris, prove
We
me
miss
wrong.
you.
So how deep do you want me to go?
Start from the beginning.
Childhood.
Where were you born? What was what was the name of your parents?
Tell us about Jersey. Tell us about the swamps of Jersey.
Whoa.
I'm
The
just kidding.
swamps?
The swamp goblins of Jersey.
Oh, the swamp goblins, of course. Yeah, I can tell you all that. So my name is Jeff Bakalar. I'm an editor at large for CNET.com, which does a lot of tech and industry news. And I've been there for a very, very long time. A very long time.
Tell us how long.
Just starting to face my own mortality right now.
Can I say that it's in double
Kinda.
digits years?
You
Double-digit
can,
years?
Michael. You'd be very correct in saying that it's many double-digit years. But look, what are you going to do, right? You love where you work, so you stay there forever if you can, right? That's
Sure.
Sure.
I started off working there doing I was doing like home theater stuff, and I moved around and began covering video games like 10 years ago. And I've been doing that ever since. And then I started a podcast there a while back. That ended. And then I switched into basically only doing video, like in front of the camera, behind the camera, strategy, stuff like that. I co-host a podcast on Giant Bomb called the Giant Beastcast. And yeah, that's sort of my deal. When I tell people my title is editor at large, it's just so it's dubious. Like what does that even mean? I don't even know what it means.
Makes you sound like an outlaw. Like it makes you sound cool.
I like that description.
Vigilante editor out here.
Sure. Let's go with that. But what it really means is I just have my fingers in a lot of different pies.
That's the one.
Can you put your fingers in is that okay? Can you?
Different bowling balls.
Not to me, it's not.
Why you don't like pie?
No, I don't want motherfuckers touching all my damn pies.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like that analogy makes no sense on its face. Like, where are you? Just like sticking each one of your fingers into a different pie?
Relax.
What is that? Why? What kind of situation are you in? Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been doing for a little over a decade. And no, I all kidding aside, I love to rag on CNET for some reason, but it's probably bad. But I just absolutely love the vast majority of the people that I work with. So that's a great thing. And I love GameSpot, and I love Giant Bomb, and I love all the other brands. There
Yes.
you go. I said it.
What about video
Ambassador.
games?
Ambassador.
Yeah, what about your gaming life?
Tell us about pinball.
Oh my gosh. So I've always been a gigantic pinball enthusiast, and over the last 2 years, I've really dove in to the deep end head first in a way that some would call crazy. But I bought a house finally. I moved out of the city, and I started a family. And we have enough room that I could get a couple, pinball machines, and I love pinball a lot. And I realized that that's a tough sell for a lot of people, and that's fine. But up until this lockdown, our retro arcade culture was a very big thing. I still believe it to be that, especially wherever I travel, I always find these like not pop up, but they're like pinball bars, arcade bars. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You've been to places like that. And I love that scene. I just love being around that. And now I'm starting my own personal pinball collection. I'm starting to stream it on Twitch every now and then. That's been a lot of fun ever since we've been, sort of held up in here. And yeah, I'm super into that. In terms of like regular games, I love all video games. I'll try anything once. There's nothing I won't play or at least give a shot. I just finished Last of Us 2 for that review a couple weeks ago. So I'm done with games for the year.
Yeah, doozy.
And
You thought.
yeah, and I don't really have, I tried to like narrow it down, like what is my like specific sort of track of like taste and stuff like that. And I don't really think I have it. Like, when I was a more like nascent sort of player, I would like stay away from RPGs for some reason, just because I was probably, a big idiot. But yeah, there's nothing I won't try. I love weird stuff. If it's super weird, I'm probably gonna like it, even if it's a bad game. So
I saw your tweet with your kid, your son talking over Bug Snacks, and that was very adorable. But that is definitely a weird game. I'm sure that's something.
Oh my God. It was funny because I just been messing around with that on Twitter. We did a couple before that. We did it for the, because my son is like, he's gotten into video games. Obviously. I mean, this was not a tough sell for him. And, I remember seeing that Unreal 5 like trailer demo thing they did, and I showed my son it, and he just started like losing he's like, what is this? Where are he's like, is this downloading? Can we play this?
Oh.
And I was like, no, you idiot. It's not even a game, little kid. It's just this demo. But he started talking, so I just literally slid this microphone in front of his face, made him watch it like 5 times, and then just like put together the best hits of what he said. And that's what we did with Mario, Paper Mario, and the Bug Snacks thing. And it was very cool to see the developers like appreciate that. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was a fun little thing for sure.
It was the origins of hot dog fingers.
That's it. I mean, it's funny. Like, so he said that, and my wife was here too watching, and we were laughing so hard. Like, if you listen with headphones real close, the audio just like falls off a cliff right after that, because it's just her and I losing our minds. It was a good time. I'm glad people dug it.
Oh.
So, out of curiosity, just to bring it back a little, you mentioned you've been streaming pinball. Out of curiosity, like what goes into that? Do you just set up a camera in your pinball area, I guess? And
yeah, I mean, these regular streamers, they don't know how good they have it. Us pinball streamers.
I was going to say, because that seems way more work than installing Streamlabs.
You need at least a 2-cam setup, right?
It is absolutely way harder. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just, my wife's in production. Over the years, we've collected many, many cameras and sort of miscellaneous, like, stuff around the house, tripods, just like old GoPros that, like, what the hell are you going to use a GoPro 2 for, like, ever again, right? So there's this dude who streams called Dead Flip, who I kind of became friendly with over the last like year or so. I met up with him at CES, and I've been following like a lot of the stuff that he's been doing, and he as far as I understand it, has sort of like paved the way for how pinball streaming has sort of come up. And I really just took a lot of advice from him. And yeah, I have like 4 cameras all going at once. I mean, and obviously, like, look, a lot of it is it's very intuitive, and you can kind of figure out like, what you need to do. But, OBS is an amazing piece of software, and a lot of trial and error, and, just like getting like, because pinball is like this real life kind of, analog kinetic thing. And, you want to have like 60 frames per second on the camera you're using to show that play field. So like getting it all right and all it takes forever to set it up. And I have a couple tables in my house, and I was like, man, I don't even want to switch locations, because just having to do that is such a huge pain in the ass. It takes like hours to set it all up, but I'm happy to do it. It's so much fun. And I feel like not a lot of people are doing it. So it was a really like kind of no brainer for me to introduce people into a thing that I love so much.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, I think that kind of stuff is the most interesting on Twitch too. Like, everyone streams games at this point, right? But whenever you see something like pinball, or I don't know, just some of the weirder games or ideas, that stuff always is so much more interesting, at least to me. But what do I know?
No, like it was always like a thing where I was like, man, I wish people could like watch people play pinball. And I'm like, oh, I invented this in my head, but like, of course someone is doing this. Of course people are doing this. So it was definitely like very gratifying to see not just people, and many people are doing it, but like the community and seeing how cool everyone, inside that is. And it's been a really awesome experience for sure. So, yeah.
That's great. Should we move on to what we've been playing or doing? It looks like we all got games here.
Yeah.
We got some games, bro.
We got some games. I figure I'll go last because it's
you got the big one. Yep,
it's the big one. But Kallie, do you wanna start us off here?
Sure. We talked about it a little bit last week, but I have been playing the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC Isle of Armor, and I've had much more time since last week to actually like dig into it, because it came out the day that we recorded last week. So there's just like some cool quality of life things, and me, I get really focused on the quality of life stuff with Pokemon, but it really does improve the quality of my life. So the first one is, you can find so many more items on the Isle of Armor. It's so generous. I don't know if you've noticed this, Jake, but you can get mints, like nature changing mints, like just find them on the ground. And you can find the feathers that are like, they give you 1 EV, which is really good for fine tuning an EV spread when you're training a Pokemon. I know that probably sounds like gibberish to some people, but you can find them pretty liberally throughout the map. So, and the one thing, I didn't tell you this yet, Jake, but I like didn't believe it happened. I found a flame orb on the ground.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I spent so much time grinding for that freaking flame orb.
Yeah. How many times did you do the Elite Four? Probably, or not the Elite Four, the Pokemon League. Like, I don't know, at least 200 times.
I did it enough times to completely hit the money ceiling. I hit the money ceiling and I couldn't earn any more money. That's how many times I did those battles. For a flame orb, I never got it from that. I had to trade with somebody. It was like the that tweet that was like, I've been reporting on this story for years, and he just tweeted it out. That's how I felt picking up the flame orb. I literally, I didn't believe it happened. So I hit the like 30-second recording thing on my Switch to like check the footage and see if it was a flame orb. So anyway, that stuff is really cool. I've been very grateful. There is a person you can talk to who will clear your Pokemon's EVs, which is really great, because you can do that with berries, but they were hard to get, and you had to kind of farm specific trees. And I would do that every single day, farm those same trees. And I would only have enough berries, like if I made a couple mistakes, EV training a Pokemon. So being able to pay somebody in the game to do that for you is awesome. And there's this like little like Diglett kind of, it's not a mini game, it's more of like a side activity where you can find 150 Diglett across the map. And I've been finding that really fun actually, because they're like, it's a lowland Diglets. They have these like 3 little hairs that stick up out of the ground, and they're really cute. And you click on them and they come up and they're like, they do some Diglett shit. And then you get Pokemon. You get Pokemon as a reward, and one of them is a regular Slowpoke, not a Galarian Slowpoke, that has a King's Rock, which is used to evolve Slowpoke. So to get a Slowking, and so that's a really good reward.
Did you get the vending machines that sell all those
Yeah, I did.
protein or the nutrients for half price? Because I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things like that I think kind of, they're the final tweaks that make a lot of the competitive stuff really accessible. And those final things would be items like the Flame Orb, items like protein, iron, calcium, any like EV related stuff. That's all present here. And I think it's part of the update that was released along with the DLC. I don't know if it's part of the DLC, but they upgraded the stat screen within the Pokemon boxes. So when you're scrolling and you're trying to look at a Pokemon's IVs on the side, it also displays their ability in nature, which was super annoying. You have to click between both screens just to see like, okay, this Pokemon has perfect stats, but does it have the right everything else? So they made the UI make more sense. And just little, like, I appreciate little things like that. I think on a story front, it's like pretty slim. I'm really excited for the Crown Tundra DLC, because I think that's going to add like more, from what we've seen so far, it seems to have more like puzzle elements from old Pokemon games that have kind of gone missing in recent generations. The dungeon exploration really intrigues me. But I've really liked Isle of Armor so far. It's nice to just have more Pokemon to collect. I kind of forgot how much I do enjoy that aspect of Pokemon, even though I'm so deeply invested in competitive Pokemon. The simple things do delight me. So, and the outfits are so good. The outfits are great. Fashion is the real outfits. Well, you can dress like Marnie. You got like the cute little butt. It's better for girls probably. Like the girl outfits are always going to be cuter, but I like the dojo uniform. It made me want to go back to martial arts. The music, oh my God, I didn't talk about the music. It is hard to explain. It's a cool remix of that one vaguely racist tune. The like that tune. So when I first heard it, I was like, I don't know about that one. But then I was like, well, Japanese people made the music. I guess it's like really not my place to say whether it's bad. But it's like,
it's very good though. It's so catchy.
You gotta hear it, Michael. It's so catchy.
All right.
So that's my quick take. I'll have a review up very soon. It was a really harrowing weekend for me. Very hectic. Lots going on. So I'm a little behind, but it'll probably be up by the time this podcast goes up, unless I like die. So yeah.
Shit,
so
R.I.P.
I imagine Michael, Jeff, you guys probably don't have a whole lot to add on Pokemon, but the floor is open.
It's good. It's good to hear. It's good to hear like Kallie's got more Pokemon to play. I know that shit makes you happy, and it makes a lot of other people happy. So I'm happy to hear that it is bringing you joy in these trying times, and that's really important.
For sure.
Michael.
I echo all of that without a doubt.
Facts.
That's it. I have nothing else to add there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about you and P4G on PC.
Oh, good transition.
Ooh. Oh boy, I got some shit to get off my chest. So if the floor is
Are you
mine.
okay?
I mean, that's a fair question. Right now, and like the games that I've been playing have been kind of a reflection of that in many ways. So Persona 4 Golden had come out since the last time I've been on the podcast. I've been playing it because Persona 4 Golden was my favorite game of all time up until I played, finished, and reviewed Persona 5 Royal. So it's 1 and 2, or 1A and 1B, I would say. And it's just my favorite games of all time. But I am replaying P4G since it came out on PC. It is wild to have this game on not a Vita or PS TV. It's an emotional experience. It's like reliving those memories from like a couple years ago, 3 years ago when I played it. But that game means so much to me. Just like being back in Inaba, where it takes place, and being with those characters again it's like a cozy blanket for me. And the origins of Chie Satonaka, man, that's my girl, no matter what. 100. And I tweeted this out, but my love for Chie has nothing to do with like that waifu shit. That everyone like best girl or whatever. Like I engage in those discussions, but the thing about Chie is that she's who I aspire to be, in terms of like how much she whoops ass, how much she loves her friends, and the fact that she's like very adorable while doing all of that. That's my girl, and so it's just damn. And Erin Fitzgerald is my favorite voice actor of all time. She's absolutely wonderful and captures the spirit of her character so well. So Persona 4 Golden has been great because
she didn't voice the original Chie though, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It was a different voice actor on the PS2.
PS2.
So it's kind of cool that like so many people were able to, I don't know, connect with her as the new Chie, because I feel like that could go very wrong.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, she's really embodied that character, because there's a million games that came out after Persona 4 with Persona 4 in it, and even an anime. So Erin Fitzgerald has really captured Chie. So, but the thing though is I'm not that far in yet, in the grand scheme of things. But the thing that I'm keeping in mind is that when I played Persona 4 Golden in 2017, I was, aware of the conversations around how it handles LGBTQ issues. As I'm replaying it now, as you get more and more into the game, those things begin to unfold and reveal themselves more and more. But having played that 3 years ago, it's not the story beats that touch on those things aren't exactly fresh in my mind, but I'm extra conscious of it now. So when I get to those things, I can be a lot more critical of them than I was back then. And in a way, I'm kind of like, I'm not scared, but I am I'm preparing myself for disappointment because of how much I've held Persona 4 so dear to me. But now that I've learned in 3 years, I've learned so much more about LGBTQ issues, what transphobia looks like, what transphobia sounds like when people talk about it, what homophobia actually is, how that manifests in language, how people talk to each other in relation to those issues, and how it gets represented in media. So and I think that it's important. I say this in my 10-year write-up that I actually wrote 2 years ago for Persona 4, that we should be, no matter how much we love something, we should be critical of the things that we love, especially as it relates to entertainment and media. And that's something I'm keeping in mind. And even like when I wrote that in 2018, I didn't know as much as I do now. So that's going to be an experience. This is actually a question that we'll get into later, but the soundtrack to that game is, oh my God, it brings tears to my eyes to hear that soundtrack again. It's absolutely beautiful. Some real J-pop and J-rock. I mean, a lot of people who probably listen to this podcast know about Persona 4 very well. Maybe even engaged in the Persona 4 endurance run from all those years back on GiantBomb.com. I know I did, so that was kind of like where that love came from, I guess. But yeah, I've been going through it, and Persona 4 has been there with me. So I am going to keep playing it because it brings me happiness, but also I need to see it through just to recontextualize what that game is with how I feel and what I know now. It's an important thing to keep in mind.
Where does a lot of that stuff kind of occur in the story? It's with like Kanji, right? Kanji and like some of Yosuke's later
Yeah,
stuff?
so the way I think Kanji is one of the most important characters to me because he also represents a lot of I see a lot of myself in him. And when I actually tried explaining why Kanji means so much to me to somebody else, and I started like fucking bursting out in tears. It was fucking wild. Yeah, because because the thing is like Kanji like acts hard as fuck. Like I'll beat your ass, motherfucker. If you try and like I don't know, terrorize my friends, or if you try and try and punk my mom out of money at her shop, I'll beat your motherfucking ass. Then
Hit
that's
him with a
that on
folding
that.
chair, right?
With a folding chair, yeah. So I'm like, that's my guy. But the thing is, like, he's very I would say like he's like emotionally like sensitive to things, but he's also like not sure of himself. He loves stuffed animals. He likes cute shit. I'm like, dog, I
Like
love cute.
Sushi Wishy in the
Yeah,
background.
like this thing. Oh my gosh, it's like a live stuffed animal right there. Oh, it's
It's alive. It's alive.
It's a cat. Yes, sorry.
She's sleepy. She's very sleepy. But yeah, so yeah, he embodies that. So the thing is like how the game frames him as, is he gay? Is he not gay? Is that even like what they're trying to go for? Those are the things that I'm conscious of. And then how Yosuke talks to him, because Yosuke is a piece of shit. He's like a bro. He's supposed to be your bro, and he's cool at times, but man, that guy says some fucked up shit. And like, if I recall correctly, he kind of gets away with it, and I don't know how I feel about that. And then with Naoto, in terms of how it frames her gender identity, because at first when I played it, I took Naoto's story as workplace gender discrimination, and it's actually like addressing Naoto is very complicated because it's coded in a lot of, or it can unfold in a lot of transphobic language, depending on how you take her social link route. But also like it's hard because I think canonically Naoto identifies as she and her, but at first everyone perceives Naoto as he, him, and that is kind of the story progression, and it's kind of rooted in, oh, Naoto's trying to be a detective, but in these agencies they discriminate against women, so Naoto identifies as he, him in order to overcome that. I think that's at least how I remember it. But that is a very complicated thing to communicate in a story and very easy to fuck up, especially in a game that came out in 2008. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I really liked what you said about like being critical of things we love. I think it's also interesting to think about the context when it was released, not in a way to excuse it, but in how something might have been meaningful to you back then. Mm-hmm. And how you've grown since. So an example, talking about like how somebody's perceived as the anime Ouran High School Host Club. I know a lot of people who really love that show. Mm-hmm. It stars a character who is basically non-binary. And it came out, I think, in 2006. And, you know, it's not like, if you look at it, it's kind of problematic because it's about like, okay, here's a character who's assigned female at birth, who doesn't really, is like, I don't care about gender at all, then gets recruited by this host club and has to act like a boy in order to like pay back a debt and stuff. It's some anime bullshit, but like, I think at the time, like I know a lot of people who really loved Haruhi, the main character, because having like a character that was like, I have no connection to my gender whatsoever, was just something you didn't see. But at the same time, that show includes like the English subtitled version, at least, includes like the T-slur and like really problematic things. So it's, watching it now is a very different experience than it was watching it in 2006. And I just find that like it's cool when you're going back to something you love to be able to reflect on. It's not about like, oh, I hate the thing I loved now. It's kind of about like, oh, how far I've come from what I was when I first encountered this thing. So I really liked what you said about that.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah. And yeah, I think that's as much as I have to say, but one thing I don't want to use it as an excuse to be like, oh, it came out in 2008. But it definitely is. That is something that that is important to keep in mind when we are critiquing things that are older. Like it's almost I almost feel like it's hand wavy to say that, oh, but it came out in 2008.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like in 2008 to have a JRPG that went for it, like this game went for it. And looking back now, it failed on many levels, but in a way it's like, but they went for it. And that's a thing I'm wrestling with.
Yeah. It's like not about excusing it. It's just about like, just really, there's a lot of nuance to explore there.
Yeah, definitely. But if I want to close the book on P4G for now, there's another older. I'm playing old games, man.
Good.
I think I'll try and get through this one quickly. But Deus Ex, the original that came out in 2000, is a fucking wild game to play in the year of our Lord 2020. Holy shit! Because if y'all don't like, Jeff, you're old. You probably played the original Deus Ex.
Wow.
Oh my god!
I'm the second oldest one on this podcast, so Jeff and I are the old ones, and I played the original Deus Ex.
Yeah, I had already graduated. I was out of college for 15 years when that game came out.
That's wild, man.
And,
you look good for 60, man.
I played that in college. If that
I
still dates me, but yeah.
Yeah, I played that in like 6th grade, but anyway.
Oh, that's cool.
What year are we talking about here?
2000.
2000? I just started college in 2000. No, did I? Yeah.
Oof.
I graduated high school in 2000.
I was 7.
Look, it's cool. Look, I've come to accept that just like time's a flat circle, you know, like whatever.
Yeah, time is meaningless. Meaningless.
You know?
Oh my god. But
until I'm 40. When I'm 40, then you guys don't have to talk to me anymore.
Okay. That's right. We had Kallie Adams on here. That fool's 41. But
yeah,
and he looked
that's
good
wild.
for 41 too.
Yeah.
See, I can't. Yeah.
We rock with old people. It's all good.
Oh God, just don't say old.
All right. I'm sorry, Jeff. I love
it's fine. It's fine.
But Deus Ex is fucking wild. Let me just try and if y'all don't know the original Deus Ex, so there's a pandemic that hits the United States of America. There's people are dying in the streets because of a plague. There's supposedly a cure that the government has created and is actually in control of. And you play as a special agent cop who is supposed to not crack down on NSF terrorists, which is like a rogue militia within the United States that are perceived as like anarchists or like hardcore like left-wing extremists. And as the story progresses, I mean, spoilers for a 20-year-old game, but at a point, like your brother is also a special agent from UNATCO. That's the organization that you're working for, like top level fucking law enforcement type shit. And then it's my first introduction to Cyberpunk too, because it's rooted in. So it was a lot of people's introduction to Cyberpunk, especially in the video game form. It's a first person immersive sim, and if you track its history, Warren Spector, Harvey Smith, who's now Arcane doing Dishonored and Prey and things like that, and System Shock before that. So it was kind of the pinnacle of that lineage in many ways. But yeah, that game is wild to play because it's rooted in how a pandemic is leveraged by the rich and powerful to oppress people and stay in power. But it's also about how capitalistic systems are in place to not only suppress people, but it's the like body augmentations are kind of supposed to be this great equalizer, but it's really not. So it touches on a lot of different topics. Of course, a 20-year-old game, it isn't exactly nuanced, but replaying it, they hit some themes pretty fucking hard. Like there are lines of dialogue, like it's almost comedic now playing it because the voice acting is like it's so bad it's good. But some of the lines on there are like, oh shit, like they said some shit, like especially in the first mission when you meet up with like the terrorist leader, you can kill him, but the best way to go about it is to talk to him, and he'll tell you like, yo, he sounds like a conspiracy theorist at first, but then he's like, yo, okay, then this year taxes had this effect, and then now rich people don't pay as many taxes, and then now it's all leveraged. It's like thrust down on the downtrodden, the people who face the consequences of an extremely capitalistic system that's exploited. It's fucking wild, and yeah, I'm going through that game very conscious of that as well. Not so much in like, oh, I'm trying to critique it in a way, but I'm trying to see like. I don't want to say how far it's come because capitalism and oppression are as old as time. It's just that in video game form, this is what we had in that year. and it still resonates in many ways. And in light of Cyberpunk 2077, I'm very conscious of that as I'm seeing that game unfold as well. Because not to say that like, oh, it needs to live up to Deus Ex, the original, but if Deus Ex touched on those themes in sometimes quite nuanced ways, especially in how it frames capitalism and how it shows police brutality as a mechanism to enforce capitalism by the rich and powerful, I expect Cyberpunk 27 to go fucking ham on that shit. Otherwise, I'll be mad disappointed.
Right? It feels like that's what we're set up for, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that game's been done for a little bit, but like,
yeah. But I mean, and also, that's the root of. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like you're. I feel like you're playing a game of like going through the archives of like dystopian sci-fi like video games, and you could start to play this game where it's like, oh, is this worse than our reality right now? Oh.
Or is this our
are we still okay? Like, I feel like I do that with film a lot, where like now like the next in the queue is like, is Children of Men actually worse than what we're going through right now? Like that kind of thing.
Yep.
And right, and like I just feel like this is a very slippery slope of depression that you can enter doing that kind of exercise. But no, it's very interesting to hear someone look at a 20-year-old game through the lens of 2020. That's pretty wild. How's it perform? Like, what you're playing on PC, obviously.
Yeah, I'm playing on PC, and because it was an old Unreal Engine game, it's very easy to get modded. So I'm running ultra wide 21:9 screen. And you just go into the INI file and then you custom set the resolution and you custom set the FOV, and there's like texture and lighting mods that you add to it. So it doesn't look like a modern game, but it looks clean. And the fact that you can modify and play with it like that, it makes it a lot easier on the eyes. I always enjoyed that game's atmosphere. That's the number one thing to me is it all takes place at night. It's dark as hell. Like it's just a very like dark lighted game, but and it can obscure a lot of those blemishes in a very old engine, but it has such a strong sense of like not just the neon lights, but the way the characters are designed, even though they're like super old ass character models, and also the music and the ambient sounds are it nails a certain type of atmosphere that I associate with Cyberpunk so much, because this could just be the marketing. Jake's going to get into this, of course, in much greater detail with Cyberpunk 2077. But in a way, I think Erica Arahak had kind of, I can't remember if it was her that coined the term cyberpop.
I've seen her threads. Her threads on cyberpunk as a genre are really fascinating. I don't know about cyberpop specifically, but
yeah. But I came across that term for her from her, and it's kind of like the celebration or the embracing of the cool looking things of cyberpunk without the critical analysis. I'm not saying that 2077 is going to ignore that, because I haven't played the game. It's a 100-hour game, but
it's not out yet too.
It's not out yet. But I am expecting that, because it's using the cyberpunk name, and cyberpunk as a genre, as a concept, is rooted in dystopian like life and the oppression of capitalistic systems.
I mean, I will say, just to cut in, like I did play some Cyberpunk, but this is not based on what I played. But like, you could say the same things about fantasy in a sense, and CD Projekt Red did a very good job of deconstructing that genre with the Witcher games.
Witcher 3, with Witcher,
So I personally have faith that they'll be capable of doing that. But once again, like I played about 4 hours. I did not get much of the writing considering how big that game is. I mostly just messed around, but we can talk about that later.
The one thing I do want to point out too is that the Cyberpunk name for 2077 comes from Cyberpunk 2020. So specifically it is Mike Pondsmith's universe of Cyberpunk.
Right.
So I think there's going to be people conflating Cyberpunk as it originated with Mike Pondsmith with Cyberpunk as an overall genre and how it's evolved. So I think there's going to be an interesting dynamic there, because, you know, like Jake said, they could deconstruct the genre, or they could take it in a direction that's different. Obviously the game, from what the marketing we've seen, like the random Japanese and like that, the neon and that kind of like the the
The
visual touch points.
the aggressive Latino character that's been front and center. I was like, all right, I see what y'all think of brown people, but
I do think there's something to be said for this game because Mike Pondsmith himself is specifically involved as a consultant on the game. So I think there's a bit of a complicated, like, two versions of the word cyberpunk thing going on.
Yeah. And
before we get to cyberpunk,
before we get too deep into the cyberpunk, I do want to hear what Hardspace Shipbreaker is.
Yeah, that's tough that's a tough act to follow. Oh my God. So have you guys talked about it or seen it, or what do you know about?
This is the first time I'm seeing this title.
Okay.
Actually,
this game, I got turned on to it having someone on the Beastcast talk about it last week. It is very much man, it is like this weird sort of like cowboy astronaut, like miner simulator where you play as someone. It's, obviously very far into the future, and you play as someone who is basically dismantling and cashing in the scrap of like disused spacecrafts and whatnot that is just sort of floating in orbit outside of Earth. I only got to play for a few hours, but it definitely has this sort of like, almost like freelance, for hire, like Western cowboy person, but in space, where you're like just trying to get some sheep in a barn, but instead you're just trying to get some like metal into like this, sort of like, I can't even describe what they do. You basically like capture these pieces of junk and you throw them into this receptacle in space that's sort of orbiting Earth. It is a very it is so I don't want to say painfully, but it's like very specific to like, understanding how like constructions are made and playing a lot around with physics, because you're constantly floating in this game. As you would imagine, you have all these thrusters that allow you to move pretty independently, but like with a very floaty long leash, kind of like I'm in a vacuum and I can't really do anything precise because I'm constantly moving around like an idiot. It's fun though. There is a certain attention to detail in it that I find super satisfying. And yeah, it's just a real, for me, like it reminded me of Outer Wilds a little bit, because there's something about Outer Wilds that is horrifying. Like, I feel like people didn't spend enough time talking about just how fucking scary that game is, because for whatever, I mean, like, maybe it's a personal phobia, but just like the ocean at night, the endlessness of space, just things that like have no finite kind of end that you can foresee, like, give me a great deal of horror. And this game kind of like leans into that a little bit as well. And I just find it, as horrifying as that is, I also find it to be this very real escape from kind of everything. And it's very easy to kind of get lost in, and you take on these new sort of missions where you're tasked to basically, you have this like laser gun that sort of cuts through steel and melts joints and whatnot. It's a lot of fun. And I know, and I've wanted to give it a lot more time, but it's something that I'm definitely going to like dig into this weekend for sure. So I am very much up to my my shins in that for sure.
So is it like a, I guess, third person sort of style game?
It's first person.
It's first person.
Oh.
It's first person, which I was worried at first, because I was like, oh, I'm going to throw up playing this game. But but no, it kind of like, I think a lot of the floatiness is grounding in a way, if that makes sense, where you do seem to have, once you kind of wrap your head around the basic kind of like the amount of give and take that you can perform with the controls. I thought I was going to play, it's a PC game, I thought I was going to be mouse and keyboard with this thing, but I found myself after like a half hour, I was like, I got to try a controller on this one. And once I started playing with the controller, I was much more, had my sort of wits with what I could do with this game. So yeah, it's a little wonky. It's in early access. I have had a couple, not crashes, but like situations where I had to just like alt tab and come back in and get my controller kind of working again. But it does perform pretty well for the most part. And I think, it is as finished as you can hope an early access game to be. So yeah, I'm definitely digging it for sure.
Cool. That sounds awesome. What I guess stood out to me, what you just said, was how like it's kind of chilling, like Outer Wilds is, which is something that I definitely got to. There's something, I don't know, like kind of numbing but terrifying about being on a planet as you see your ship fly away and you're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm stuck here until I die. And then you just kind of wait it out. And like that, I don't know, that feeling was so unique.
Totally.
It is something that's like really interesting to see developers explore.
Yeah. In Outer Wilds, like there were so many times where I was just like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just like not like losing your point of view and not having like a horizon to look at. And you're sort of just like, flailing and sort of and tumbling in space. And you're just like, am I still in this game? Like what has happened? Am I going to be okay? And then like you look around, it's like some sort of like gigantic piranha or like something. There was a lot of moments in that game where I was just like, I need to turn the lights on and really step away for a second. But the horror is not so much there in this one. It's just more of like that really odd feeling of like looking down at your planet and also at the same time just chilling in space, which I don't know how astronauts actually do that. To me, I think like when I was a kid, everyone was like, oh, you want to be an astronaut? We go like, no, that sounds fucking terrifying. Are you kidding me?
They lose me at motion sickness. I would not be able to handle that shit.
It's just it is totally a wild thing, but yeah, I'm digging it. And I have actually, I didn't put it here in our rundown, but I did also dive a little into that Mafia remaster, specifically Mafia 2, because that was a game I played right as I was sort of getting into my career. And it was like one of the first events that I attended in New York. And it was like this really cool, introduction to the game. And it's a really good remaster. It's not just like it could be like a retexturing sort of thing. I don't remember much of the first game. I just remember, picture, what was that? 2010, maybe 2008,
I think so, yeah.
Somewhere around.
I think Mafia 2 is 2010.
Okay. So you've got like Sopranos fresh in a lot of people's minds, and like this game definitely leans into that in a major way. But yeah, it's it's sort of kind of dumb fun, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see myself kind of playing through it all the way through again, but it was definitely cool to kind of jump back into that and see that this remaster for sure like feels like it holds up. I didn't play the first Mafia. I don't know if I have the desire to like check out what that was all about, but
apparently it's tough to go back to today.
Hey,
the first Mafia,
it was tough to play in 2000. Yeah. I played it in 2006 or 2005, and that game was only like 4 years old at the time. And that game was very good. It was in many ways it was ahead of its time, even in the time I played in 2006. In many ways, it was behind the times, like graphically, cinematically, story wise, the story beats and what they made you do. Tying narrative to gameplay aspects was like, wow, that game was amazing. But the shooting, the actual action, and the driving, the things you had to do with the controls was fucking wild.
I'm excited to see what they do with the remaster for the original that's supposed to come out, August or something. Yeah. But yeah, Mafia 2 is a game that I want to check out, or I want to check out the remaster too, because I remember when that came out, I thought that game was excellent. And I don't remember a lot of people talking about it. Like, I thought the story was really good. I really like the weird attention to detail. Like, I remember you'd go back to your apartment and you'd I don't know, call someone on the phone or like drink a beer and hang out as you wait before you like turn in for the night and begin the next chapter of the game. I don't know if that game holds up though. So it's like good hearing that, because it's a game that I definitely want to check out again to see if it matches how I felt in, whenever the hell I played it.
Yeah, I remember, oh man, you know how like all the PR pitches go, but I remember the people who were talking about the game were just talking, they were like, oh, and I forget the main character's name, but like you go back to your apartment and like, you just smoke a cigarette and you sit down and you relax. And it was like, what are we going for here, man? Like, okay, all right, that's okay, sure, why not? But yeah, it's I've in the couple hours I've played, I've definitely found fun in it. So for sure, yeah.
Is it James O'Connor who has a piece on GameSpot.com, Kallie, that he revisited it and did some sort of analysis about how it holds up today.
Right.
So
so it's partially about how does it run, and it's partially about how is it going back to this game.
I'll have to check that out. That's on what, GameSpot? GameStop.com?
GameStop?
GameStop?
Shit,
All right.
I don't know.
I have to check that out.
Pre-order that shit, baby.
All right. I mean, I guess it's time to talk about Cyberpunk.
Yeah, you have to.
I know. So I got to play 4 hours of it over NVIDIA Now, which is a game streaming thing, which actually ran pretty well. It was interesting using all that stuff. I don't think many people care about that, but I thought it was pretty interesting.
Was it like a Shield, or how did you play it?
So they had me download NVIDIA Now, and then they had me connect. No, actually, I don't even think I connected to their PC. I logged in to their account and was basically able to run the game, stream the game from my PC at home.
Via the cloud, right?
Yeah.
And we should add the context that this was in lieu of a hands-on preview event where you physically go and play the game because of the pandemic. This is their solution, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed. Like there was almost no latency, at least not that I could notice. And it looked pretty well. Like, sure, if you look close enough, you can see compression, because moving that kind of data from one PC in Poland all the way to mine is, that's going to cause some issues. But like overall, it was incredibly smooth. It was also my first experience with like game streaming, because I haven't really done that before.
That is super interesting, because like, I mean, they can run it on whatever they want and just stream you the video. That's what it is, right? Like, you just got the video version. Are you sure it was going overseas, or there was nothing that they were doing in the States? Like, were they like?
So the people I was talking to were in Poland. Maybe they had like data centers in the United States. Like, I guess they've got they have a Los Angeles office, so maybe some of it was out of there. But regardless, like, I was surprised at how well it ran. However, I will say, like, they sent us B-roll too, and I looked over the B-roll and I was like, yeah, I can't wait until I can run this off my hardware itself, because it's going to look much, much, much cleaner. But I mean, like, I guess my like high level thoughts are that this game seems like a first person GTA in a cyberpunk setting with way more RPG mechanics and like the way you can develop your character in more interesting ways than you would in a GTA game. But like almost to the point where it would be like, all right, I can hijack cars, I can drive around the city, I can get in trouble. Like at one point, I just wanted to see what happened, so I walked up to a cop and stabbed him with a knife, and like I got warrants out on my arrest. This courtyard went into absolute chaos. People were running around, and it was just like, okay, this is what happens in GTA when you do this kind of stuff. They said they're still tweaking how exactly the wanted system is going to work in the final release. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but like just that initial response after I got through the prologue and just walked up to a cop who was, I don't know, talking to some street punk, and I was just like, stab. And then just,
God damn.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, I gotta push it to the limit, see what happens. Yeah, like I don't even know where to begin. Like it was 4 hours and it felt like nothing. I guess I can start with the character creator.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Because you can customize pubic hair.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what the people want to know.
I didn't do it because I didn't want to spend time in the character creator. But I was just scrolling through.
What is that labeled as? Is it just pubic hair, or is it like Merkin situation?
It's just pubic hair.
Okay.
And I actually think it may have just been color too. I don't even think it was.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, are you putting braids in it? Like, what are you?
That'd be dope.
What are you doing? Are you like shaving a little heart?
So they show like junk?
So they didn't, or they showed like
was
breasts.
It mosaiced out? Okay.
No. They showed, but they were wearing underwear. The character was wearing underwear. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe if I clicked into that option, I don't even know if I want.
Well, that implies that you will see your character naked in the game.
Probably, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, because there's sex in the game.
There is sex.
Oh, there's fucking. I didn't know there's fucking.
Wow, that's what's up. Hot coffee mods.
And you have like a kind of like GTA too. I don't want to keep comparing it to GTA, but you have a phone. I don't know what they call it in Cyberpunk.
Oh, just like Animal Crossing.
Just like Animal Crossing too. Yeah.
Same game.
You have a device where people can send you messages, and this is a good way to pick up quests. Like a lot of the texts I got were just like, hey, you should check this thing out because so-and-so is really mad about this thing, or this thing shook out. Maybe you can find some work from here. And you could just track quests right from there. So that was like one way you could pick up quests. But they've also said previously that like relationships are going to be a big deal in this game. So I imagine that will play a big role in that. I'm speculating on that part.
Are you expecting like, I'm going to get a text that's like, send nudes?
I mean, I don't know. Didn't they say they were going to we're going to have like adult relationships in this game?
Or send dudes in case you need backup.
Send dudes, yeah.
Send dudes.
But like, I didn't do much character creation because I was worried about the time, except for the skills. And when you start the game, you get to invest 7 points into 5 different skills, which I think are like body, reflex, technology, intelligence, and cool. That was 6. Was that 6? No, I just miscounted. That was 5. And depending on what perk or what attribute you invest in, that unlocks a different set of perks for when you start. Now they've talked about this like fluid class system, which I don't know. I did a video on it, or I have a video that's going to be up on it by the time this goes up. And that I didn't use that word because it sounded kind of PR-y, and I was like, I don't want to use that. But
sure, yeah.
Basically what the idea behind that is that you're very able to like kind of shift course pretty quickly. Like you don't need to just be a net runner or a hacker or a muscle or anything like that. Like you can kind of pick and choose perks from different attribute skill trees to make your character. Like I was going to play more as a net runner, but I quickly realized that I was a really bad net runner. So I started investing more into like firearm and stealth to kind of back up my net running ability. So when I fucked up, which, happened almost every encounter I did, I was able to, handle a gun properly and hit people with knives and lead pipes because I had a lead pipe that I was using a lot.
What made you a bad net runner? Is the skills you had unlocked, or like you specifically, your ability to do it?
So I think it was partly because I didn't have a lot of skills, and partly because I would just get spotted, or I would fail the hack and someone would notice it and they'd run up to me and, want to fight. But when I did pull it off, it was pretty satisfying because it was like early on, they do like a tutorial where you can hack a dude and then get him to kind of, I don't know, you hack whatever, I don't know, electronics he's got built into him. And then another guard came over and then you can hack the grenade he's got. So he blows up and kills them both. And like that stuff was pretty satisfying. I only got to try that out once. When I actually went into the world, like the only ability I really had was to hack and distract other guards. But like the hacking itself seemed pretty fun. Like the little mini game you do when you're about to hack, I had a lot of fun doing. I don't know if that'll get tiring over, dozens, if not 100 hours.
So I just feel like this is a very tough game to like sample, right? To demo.
Yeah, totally.
Like how did they like give you, like what kind of slice of this did you see is what I'm really curious about. Like, did they just say like, okay, you've got 4 hours with like 3 missions to like start? Like how did that play out?
So I was actually pretty surprised because they they were like, all right, you can do whatever you want in this game. We're going to start you at the beginning. Here's the story we recommend you do, but you don't have to do that. So I didn't do any of the story stuff other than like the stuff that the game fed me right into. Because those missions they were showing mostly had already been seen. So I just explored the world and messed around for 4 hours. There was no like segmented areas. There were like they pretty much just let me do whatever I want, which was interesting. I mean, I feel like very rarely developers let you do that. Most of the time they're like, here's a very specific part that we want you to play. And I think it does show a level of confidence that they have with this game to allow me to do whatever I want. Because I asked multiple times, I was like, are you sure you don't mind if I just mess around? And they're like, nah, go for it. So I just explored the world mostly and did like incidental quests as they showed up, but I did not do much of the story.
Did you see Keanu?
I didn't see Keanu. Apparently, I asked him and I was like, all right, so did I make a mistake? If I did the story, would I have seen Keanu? And they're like, nah, you wouldn't have seen Keanu. And I was like, all right, good. I don't.
Still, I do. So Timur did see some story stuff, and he has a written preview up that you can read. And he talks a little bit about one quest that gives him like, it's like a really good sign for him. I don't want to paraphrase too much, but I would encourage you to read it. But talking about like the strength of CD Projekt Red being able to inject humanity into its worlds, and how at first Timur was not seeing that because of the kind of like bleakness of
it's Cyberpunk. Very edgy too. Like the main quest is like very almost not too edgy, but like at times I'm like, all right, I get it. V's like this angry badass and Jackie likes to cuss a lot. I was like,
yeah, which I hated from the preview stuff. I really did not like the edgy part of that. But Timur talked about a side quest that he did called "Losing My Religion," like the song, I guess. That you should just read his description. I really don't want to like paraphrase it and screw it up, but it was really promising and it made me really excited.
Yeah. So the quest you're talking about that he talked about is one about I think it's a monk who it's against his religion to have any cybernetic implants, but some gang kidnapped him and are forcing implants on him. And I think you have to rescue him. I didn't play this mission, but he described it to me, but it sounds pretty interesting. Like it sounds like a CD Projekt Red quest, if that makes sense. Like I've said it many times, but like the best part of The Witcher 3 are all of the side quests, all the monster hunts, because all that stuff they just feel like the short stories that the game was based on, where you're introduced to interesting characters. There's an issue. Usually it's like a monster that's attacking a town, and then you investigate more and learn that it's not just a monster. Like there's something that happened along the way. Like the townspeople curse something, and they're always like very human stories, which personally has always been my favorite part of The Witcher. So that doesn't surprise me what Timur is talking about, because for me personally, I bet a lot of those more human stories are going to come out in the side quests. Once again, this is speculation, but that's kind of what I'm most looking forward to. But like I said, like based on what I played, I didn't get to see a lot of those kind of quests. So I just I'm more focused on exploring Night City, and I like got lost in that almost instantly. Like there's so like, just like The Witcher 3, even like The Witcher 3 turned up to 11. The attention to detail is absurd. Like I like everything. Like it's so hard to just drive through areas because there are so many things jumping out at you that look interesting. And it's not even like things popping up on your map necessarily. It's just like things you see that's like, oh, I want to explore that. So constantly, I'm sure the guy who was helping me, Max Piers, one of the level designers who was like kind of guiding me through, was getting frustrated because I drive like 2 inches and get out of my car and be like, all right, I gotta check out this. And I just like see an alley and I check out the alley, and all of a sudden the alley would open up into this market, this like packed marketplace with all these characters wandering around, and I'd hear him talking, and I walked into one, and there was this like, I don't know, sidewalk preacher who was going off about how this generation is ruined because all of the cybernetic implants are destroying people's lives, and how the next generation can possibly save it. And I was sitting there watching him, just like, all right, I kind of want to see what this guy has to say. And these two girl NPCs walked up, and they're like, yeah, this is the guy. and they pulled out their phones and started taking selfies with them. And they're like, yeah, this guy's so crazy, and just kept going. And I was like, holy shit. Like, just out of nowhere, this random stuff happens because I don't know, curious to see what this guy was on about.
That's cool. I want to play this fucking game.
Yeah. Damn. What about like the moment to moment like gameplay in when there's hostilities being presented to you? Because when I watch this, I think of it as like a super refined Deus Ex Mankind Divided type of thing, but that's a lot more fluid and has better gunplay with a bunch of more variables at play. Like, is it that?
Yeah, I mean, once again, like only playing the first 4 hours, I feel like I didn't really have a good opportunity to sample all the different abilities. But in terms of the gunplay itself, it seemed pretty good.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like I imagine a lot of people because people have crazy expectations for this game, and I'm sure they're going in and expecting like Destiny or Call of Duty level of shooting, but it's definitely not at that. Like
Right.
there is a very generous aim assist, which I think is there to kind of mitigate how the aiming isn't as precise as people might expect. This is a work in progress build, so that could change. But based on what I played, the aiming seemed like it was good. Like I didn't have any complaints with it, but it definitely doesn't have that responsiveness that something like Call of Duty or Destiny is known for.
Plus you were streaming it. It's tough to know,
Yeah.
That's the other big thing too. And they didn't want us to play mouse and keyboard. They wanted us to use gamepad.
That's interesting.
So I don't know if mouse and keyboard would feel better. So I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I will say, like, based on what I played, the shooting didn't quite feel as good as something like Destiny or Call of Duty, but it felt good enough. Like it definitely felt better than Deus Ex was the last one, Mankind Divided on console. I didn't play on PC, but I played on console. And I remember the gunplay in that was not bad, but it was tough. It was tough to get used to.
It's definitely not the focus of that game, and it seems like that's not the focus of Cyberpunk 2077. Not that I was expecting it to be that.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, because they do have a bunch of they were telling me there's all these different approaches you can take to these different scenarios. Like I was saying, most of the time I tried not to shoot people. I was trying to hack in and do stealth takedowns and stuff like that. But I mostly failed because I was just bad at it, I guess. So very often it would turn into a gunfight. But one thing you can do is that for stealth takedowns, you can kill them, or you can do non-lethal takedowns. So you can, I guess, in theory, play through the game without killing anyone. I don't know if that means anything. Like, what's the difference if I kill a guy or knock him out? Like, is there going to be repercussions if I kill a guy instead of knocking him out? Are they going to come back for me? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that's like stuff that you have to, after like
really
10, 15 hours, then it'll show. Because that's the thing about Witcher 3 also. It's just how the unforeseen consequences unfold when you least expect it. And like, it happens anywhere down the line, 20, 25 hours or whatever. So that's the true like beauty of the CD Projekt Red, I guess.
Yeah. What's interesting though, what they're trying to do is like, I feel like the decisions you made in The Witcher were all based in dialogue situations, while they're really trying to let people know that the decisions you make in dialogue situations are important, but a big thing is also the decisions you make in gameplay and how that could affect you. I imagine, like I said, I only messed around and did these like side events. I feel like me killing or knocking people out probably isn't going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things. I imagine that's more saved for actual like story missions where the people you're supposed to be killing or neutralizing might be questionable about whether they're good or bad.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Like 4 hours with that game is a lot, but it's also nothing.
It's also,
Oh man.
Like I because there's so much I still can't speak to. I just tried to do as much as I could, and a lot of it was just getting lost in this world, which, I mean, definitely worked. Like I could see myself spending a lot of time just exploring nooks and crannies of that world. It's also very, I don't want to say overwhelming, but like you walk into certain areas and there's music blaring, there's lights flashing, there's the crowds are always very big. There's always lots of people walking around that it feels very claustrophobic, which is, very different from The Witcher, where you've got these wide open areas, except for Novigrad, I guess, which was more condensed.
Man, what do you guys think about like the not to derail the conversation, but I mean, do you think now with the timing of this delay, like this is being conditioned into this sort of like next gen launch title kind of thing?
So I think I can actually speak to this because when I played
great.
the game,
so good because
it was buggy. Obviously, that's something that they said would be worked out when launch, and we just kind of have to take them on their word for that. But I originally I was like, I could see maybe they delayed it just so it would kind of line up more with next gen consoles.
Right.
Having played it,
it could be both though, right?
It could be both. But having played it and I ran into a good number of bugs, I'm expecting that they are probably taking that time to iron out more bugs. Like there was one scene where I was trying to pet a cat and the cat just fucking shot away from me as I was petting it, it disappeared. I clipped into a truck one time because I was driving too fast and my car just got stuck in the truck. So anyway, my internet died. So we are back. We had a little bit of a delay. Right when I mentioned glitches, the internet just shut down. I think maybe CD Projekt Red is watching somehow. Never know.
That would be very Cyberpunk.
I know. So. But anyway, I did see a good number of glitches as I was playing. And like I said, it's not something I want to dwell on because they had said they're going to work this stuff out and, they recently delayed it. So all we can kind of do right now is just, have faith that those issues will be worked out. But yeah.
This game is so big that in a way you expect there to be bugs as long as it doesn't break the game, right? So if I see
it's far less I don't want to say focus because that sounds like this not being focused would be a negative, but it's not as, I guess,
consequential.
I mean, The Witcher 3 definitely isn't as consequential as this because you couldn't just go to a town and start killing people because that didn't really fit with Geralt's character. So they didn't really need to account for that kind of stuff. And you were playing as Geralt. So sure, you kind of customize Geralt in different ways.
But he is who he is.
But it's still Geralt. You're still swinging your sword at things and casting light spells. Well, with this, you create your own character. You have different starting points, which I guess is something worth talking about. And the way you play is dramatically different. So I imagine bug squashing in a game like this is probably incredibly stressful, incredibly difficult, and requires a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't even know how I'm going to go, anyone would go about, because I don't know who's going to review the game for us yet. It's a little too far out to have that locked down. But just the concept of reviewing it to me is so stressful because it's you can only, you will probably only have enough time to see one playthrough each, right, before the embargo will lift. This is all hypothetical, just based on how reviewing games works. But I imagine it's just going to be well, I played this way, so I have no idea about all these permutations. It just seems so overwhelmingly big and just the expansive, it intimidates me. It excites me a lot. I don't know if you did any of the brain dances, Jake, that was something that sounded really cool.
Apparently Timur did, because it happens in the story and you get a walkthrough. I didn't play any of it. I did see some of it because the B-roll they sent us had footage of the brain dances, or the brain dance, which was pretty cool. Which it's basically just a virtual reality thing, except you can manipulate the environment more and explore and I don't know. It was like a detective mode in VR, more or less.
Which is Timur was detective shit, yeah. And I was detective shit, messaging him that sounds so cool. But
it's definitely what it felt like, because there's a character who's handing another character a gun, and then you paused it and zoomed in on the gun and scanned it and got the information about the gun, and they're oh, this is this is this kind of model, and it means that this character probably got it from here. It was all kind of scripted in this situation they showed, but still, it was cool seeing that. But I think the other last big thing I do want to talk about are the 3 different life paths you can pick at the beginning, which from what we saw dictates how the game starts. So I picked Nomad, and you start outside of Night City in the desert, which I thought was pretty cool. Tamor picked Street Rat or Street Kid, which meant his character grew up in Night City. And then I think Ed picked Corpo, which meant he was like a big, I don't know, a big wig at a corporation or something like that, who had a lot of influence and power. And the story still, like after you get through that, the story still kind of goes in the same direction from what we saw. But that setup is very different. Your relationship to Jackie is very different. And it seems like there are narrative threads that the game will pull on depending on which origin you pick, which, like you were just saying right now, like that's a lot of replay value.
Yeah.
But,
just on that alone, like, yeah, it's intense.
I'm curious too to see what Jackie's character will be like depending on what you pick, because there's one version, if you pick Corpo, you've known Jackie your whole life. If you pick the other 2, you literally just meet him. For reference, Jackie's the guy who is the guy who is helping V out in a lot of the demos. And then the other thing too is that in last E3 they showed Jackie dying, what it seemed like pretty early on. So I'm curious to see what the deal is with his character and what changes depending on which life path you pick. I'm curious if there's like one version of Jackie that resonates with people more than other ones. But yeah, that's Cyberpunk. I don't know. That's all I got.
Cyberpunk sound wild, man. I can't wait to play it myself. Like even like what I said earlier when I was talking about Deus Ex, like CD Projekt Red is from previews. Like when I saw it at E3 last year, it's like it's almost, it's too easy to say that it looks like they put so much time and thought into it, like, because of course they did, but it's a lot, and I do not envy anyone who's trying to analyze this game, because experiences are going to be so different across the board. Like how can you account for maybe like some shit that someone else saw that gave a very different message across other players, depending on your choices? Like that's such a hard thing to account for. But
especially with like not trying to give away too much, and games like this, like I mean, I realize it's not easy for a publisher to just be like, here's 100 copies, and have your whole team take care of it. But I do think something maybe on a smaller scale makes sense for a game like this, where maybe you have 3 people play for as long as they can, and kind of like have this like hybrid kind of conversation about it. Like for me, I probably wind up having to do something with this game, but like I would love to hear that kind of take from people, from different media companies and how they, and outlets, and how they perceive this game. Because again, like such a thin vertical slice of this seems like it's just this insurmountable thing to convey to an audience. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
let's go.
I think, like, I don't know, I guess in a weird way, the most reassuring thing about it was that, like, actually playing it and realizing that, this is a video game. Like it like you can take that in 2 ways, right? Like a lot of people may have seen the stuff at E3 as like smoke and mirrors, like, okay, well that actually, like they might be questioning if that'll actually happen or not. And then you could take it the other way, where people have like such absurd expectations about what this game's going to be and like what they can do. And like I kind of had that, maybe not to the extent of a lot of people out there, but like actually playing it, it was like, okay, I know what kind of game this is. I understand it much better than I did a couple weeks ago, when I was just kind of, I don't know, imagining what it could possibly be. Anyway, did you guys watch this Avengers stream? Because I think we should just skip it.
Yeah, actually, can we?
Yeah,
I started to watch
watched
it and I was
but-
like, I don't.
I mean,
it seemed interesting. I just don't know what to say about it.
But y'all can go watch that. We have a ton of coverage on the site for it. So if you want that information, it's out there.
Yeah.
However, there was the announcement of the 10-cent Pokemon collab, the Pokemoba
Facts.
Pokemon Unite, which is interesting, I guess. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I don't know anything about MOBAs. I'll be curious to play it. That's really all I got. I knew there was going to be a 10-cent collab. I was just not prepared. I woke up at like 5:45, like bleary-eyed, like, okay, I better watch this. And then it started to be a MOBA, and I was like, okay.
Back to bed.
I'm going to stay in bed because my expertise is not needed here. There are MOBA experts who can handle that.
League of Legendary Pokemon.
That's what the only pun I could come up with was I'm popping smokescreen. That's all I had with my limited knowledge of MOBAs.
All right.
Sick.
Do we want to move on to questions? I got logged out of my email and I have to enter my Okta
I can
information.
take the question.
Yeah. Do you want to read the first one, Kallie?
This is from, first of all, we should say that you can email us at afterdarkpodcast@gamespot.com or join our Discord, which you can join by emailing us at that address or DMing us on Twitter to ask us questions, chat. We have an awesome community on Discord. So this question is from Robert J. on the Discord. Have you ever had to restart a game for any reason? I had to play through Golden Sun twice because I thought I locked myself from progressing further because I did not get a key item, which I just recently found out was not the case. Still had a blast with the game, though. Oh, that's painful to hear. I restart games all the time. I restart any small mistake I make. I'm like, better restart. Like I do it less so now that I have time limits on how long I need to like spend playing a game, or how long I have to spend to play to finish a game. But I used to like I've restarted KOTOR like no less than 20 times in my life. Like I just kept being like, I love specking characters. This is what scares me about Cyberpunk. I'm just going to spend so much time specking my character, and then halfway through I'm going to be like, shit, what have I done? So yeah, I do it by choice. I don't think I've ever restarted a game based on like a bug or a perceived bug. That wasn't a game that I was like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Oh, yeah. I think same for me. I don't think I've encountered game-breaking bugs, thankfully, or I've never like accidentally saved over. You know, one thing I do a lot in immersive sims is like bullshit around and then reload. Sometimes I get like really conscious of like, okay, don't save it. So now what I do is I have 30 fucking save files in my list, and then I hate it when games limit how many saves you can have.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go back to those saves. I know damn well I'm not, but I want that comfort. I need that comfort.
I actually found that I go back on saves quite a bit with this job because it's always like, I got to capture footage. I forgot to get footage of this. So when there's only like 3 save slots, it's like, well, better pick my 3 slots sparingly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've told this story before, but Mass Effect 3, I played 70% of it at launch. And then I didn't touch it again until 4 years later because I never wanted Mass Effect to end. And if I don't finish it, it doesn't end.
That's true.
Yeah. And then 4 years later, I'm like, fuck it, I got to do it. So I did it, but I just restarted the whole thing because I needed to get the whole experience all over again. And like I said before, all the DLC had come out at that point. So I was like, I don't know why y'all tripping about the ending. It looks fine to me, but that's another discussion for another time.
I feel like I've definitely done it a number of times. I think it's more like if I don't finish a game, like if I made it through 75% of a game and then a certain amount of time has passed, say like a year or more, and I come back to it, I have to restart it.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on.
No idea. I have no idea. What am I doing? What is this game? I have to restart it. The most recent example, which is not that exact situation, but after playing Red Dead 2 on PS4, I I tried it out on, I forget what the situation was where I started playing it on Xbox One X.
Mm-hmm.
And I've definitely told the story before, but I like couldn't believe how much better I thought the game looked on Xbox One X compared to PS4 Pro. And to the point where I just started playing it again. And then like 40 hours later, I was like, I'm playing this again. And I'm playing it really kind of quickly. And then when it came to PC, I like restarted it again on PC. And I haven't gotten anywhere, as far as I did on One X, but there's something about that game that I just have no problem with playing over and over, because obviously the main storyline of missions that you play through are mostly the same, but there is enough variety there where it's like even 3 months later, it's like this feels different. So yeah, it's definitely a thing for sure.
I mean, I've definitely started like Bloodborne over multiple times, Dark Souls, just because I'll get going with one build and I'll be like, this isn't working, and then I'll have to restart. That's probably the biggest one that comes to mind. Anyway, yeah. Next question. Michael, do you want to read I think this is the last one, right?
Yeah, I love this question so much. I could go on and on. I can make a million video essays on it if I wanted to, but we'll do that right now.
Yeah.
So,
keep it brief.
Okay, so let's see. What are some of your favorite instances of amazing songs and games that you love even more because of when or how it occurs in the game? Personal favorites. Ludwig the Holy Blade from Bloodborne DLC because of how it changes during the fights. Life Will Change from Persona 5. It's one of mine. Since it only plays when you're on your way to fight a boss. I listen to both on their own, but with the added context, it makes those songs even more emotionally memorable. Splat Tim from Discord. I guess I should start off since I read the question. Oh my God.
Go for it.
Again. So for Persona 5, I guess the most recent example is Persona 5 Royal. I'm not going to spoil anything, but when you approach the final boss, the new boss in Royal, it doesn't play Life Will Change. It plays a song called I Believe. And it is the only time that song ever plays in the game. And it is probably now my favorite song in all of the pantheon of Persona 5's amazing soundtrack, because it takes on a different, because Life Will Change has an empowering vibe, and like, yeah, I want to get up and like do some shit. I want to fight. I'm nothing can touch me. You feel invincible when you hear Life Will Change, because of the context in which it's played. Like you're on your way to whoop some ass, but the song I Believe, it changes because it's written as a reflection of the past 100 hours of the game. It is like walking you back through all the work that you put in to actually like try and change the world, and like brought tears to my eyes, man. It's empowering in a different way, because it's like, look how far we've come and we can't give up now. Because you know damn well you were about to fight one of the biggest boss fight in this 120-hour JRPG that you love so much. So the context in which it's used and the only time it's used is very powerful. The other thing I was gonna say about Persona 5 is Rivers and Desert, because that is a boss theme that changes when you make it to the 7th boss in the game. And at that point, it's like, to me, it communicates like how tired the characters are, because you've been through so much. You're just going through so much, and you're fighting characters who are constantly abusing their power and all that. And it becomes tiring for them to have to go through that process over and over again. But at that point, it's like the biggest boss fight. And that song is written in a way that communicates how tired it must be to keep fighting these fights, but also kind of lifting you up in that moment. Persona 5 is just full of those things, man. And Undertale too. I won't go into much
that was
detail.
mine.
Okay, so I'll let it out to you.
That was the only one I could think of. I've been brainstorming this whole time.
There's a Final Fantasy 14. Obviously, there's a bunch there that I can talk about. Undertale, I'll hand that over to Kallie. Persona 4 Golden. Soundtracks are the are the thing that make me remember games so well, because you will listen to those songs way after you have played them, and you will remember exactly how you felt and what happened in those games so vividly. The most powerful thing in games, I would say.
It's a good snapshot. Yeah, Undertale just is such a powerful example to me, and I get so excited. It's so emotional. I think about Undertale. I really do think of it as like a masterpiece of a video game, and specifically Megalovania, and the way that song weaves into how you do that boss fight. The rhythm of the music in that game, like, informs how you move within. It's like, it's not bullet hell precisely. There's the way the combat interface is, like, being in tune with the music is such a big part of navigating. I mean, that fight took me 2 weeks. I played every single night for 2 weeks. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done in any video game. And finishing it was unreal, like an unrivaled experience. So when I hear Megalovania, it's like all of that. It's like those 2 weeks of, like, I had already done a pacifist run. I'm doing my genocide run. Like, that whole run is an emotional roller coaster. And then you get to that final fight, and then to be stuck on it for 2 weeks and not know how the game ends or how that run ends. That all comes flooding back when I hear that song. I would say, so that's the most powerful example specifically with how this question is worded. I also really like the way music is used in Death Stranding in creating, like, this, like, lonely, like, almost like I'm looking out the window on a road trip and I'm depressed kind of feeling. And then I really like the music choice in that game. And I love Hotline Miami's music. I think that's another example of getting into the rhythm with the music really helps with the action. And I listen to the Hotline Miami soundtrack all the time, especially if I'm, like, really trying to focus and, like, get shit done, and it, like, puts me in a certain mood. And finally, Halo's music, as a series, makes me very emotional. I'm not even exactly sure why, but some of the, like, really epic tracks when you're, like, doing warthog runs or whatever, I'm just like, this is the best experience I've ever felt. Like, I just love it. So yeah, but Undertale, I think, is just a superb example, especially because it's so cohesive with how Toby Fox wrote that music. He made the game. He did have some help, but, like, you really feel how it all weaves together. And I do think of it as being, especially when it was released, unparalleled in the way it wove gameplay mechanics with story in such an expert way.
I guess for me, like, I'll keep it short, but the one that comes to mind is Far Away, that song in Red Dead Redemption when you cross over to Mexico. I remember that moment. A lot of people talk about how cool that moment is, but that song too in particular is just, like, so perfect for what's happening. And I even, like, would extend that to how Red Dead Redemption 2 uses music. I think it works really well. Like, the song Unshaken gives me chills. Having, finished that game a couple times, and like the Red Dead music, just the way all that plays out is really good. And on top of that, Last of Us's music stands out too. Both the first and the second, I really like. Last of Us 2 uses a Pearl Jam song. Big Pearl Jam fan, so seeing that was, like, very exciting, but also it added so much more meaning to that song that originally wasn't there for me.
I was surprised how much of a lasting effect the sort of, like, sad bastard covers were in that game, like the Take On Me and everything. And,
yeah.
Right. Like I don't know. Like I was like, why am I tearing up at this? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't know. Like, I just had this. Yeah, I don't know. I've been crying a lot with games. I don't know.
I love that shit.
But, like,
yeah, me
it's
too.
a lot of things though that maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm not a new dad, but, like, I don't know. It's just coming to terms, I guess, with a lot of stuff. But, like, yeah, I would definitely echo Last of Us 2 for sure. I didn't want to cut you off, Jake, but, like, there's a lot of really good score stuff. I forget who composed all the Christopher Nolan stuff for Inception.
Oh, yeah.
But it like
I should know. I listen to that soundtrack a lot.
but like there's so many of those like really effective. Like I thought that was gonna be a cinematic like fad that would just sort of evaporate after a couple years, but like that shit is still super effective at conveying like this very upsetting kind of tension. But yeah.
Oh, if I could say one more thing,
please,
if anyone
go
else.
for it.
One more thing about Persona 5 is how I closed out my P5R review, which is to me is why music is so powerful. Is that there's a song called Sunset Bridge, and it plays anytime characters have a revelation. I say this in my review, and it's kind of like, it's this kind of calming but bittersweet moment where people realize that they like who they are, what their place is in the world. That song plays on the final day of the game when you have to say goodbye to everyone. And I had a very hard time listening to that song, like, because I love listening to that soundtrack just straight up. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm just going to jam out. But I'd always skip that song because it hurts too much to listen to it, because it reminded me of that moment when I had to say goodbye to all my friends on the final day of that game. And it did it fucking again in Persona 5 Royal. And I was just like, God damn it. Fuck. It's such a like well-composed song. And it just, I say it's bittersweet. There's no words to it. There's nothing that's being said to you, but the instrumentation does all the communicating for that. And it is one of the most it is one of my most memorable moments. Probably my most memorable moment playing a game is like when that shit hit me. I'm like, oh fuck, this is my moment. This is my revelatory moment, and realizing my role in this game. So that's the power of music, bruh.
Music does it more, I think, for me personally, than any other kind of like visual thing. Like even in like The Evil Within, like Claire de Lune is one of my favorite pieces of music, and the those like checkpointy parts in The Evil Within with the mirror, and they play that piece, and it's just like, I don't know what it is, but I am such a sucker for that arrangement. It's just like, if that's playing, you have my attention, and whatever you're doing is important.
Did you play Sayonara Wild Hearts? Because the first level in that game is Claire de Lune.
Oh no, I have not played that.
I didn't love the game, but there is one song in particular that I just absolutely adored, in the way that level, there's like this crescendo to it that and I wanted to bring up more of a rhythm music game, because we didn't really talk about those, because I think maybe that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But Claire de Lune just reminded me. I love Claire de Lune.
I love it. It's awesome.
Well, I think that's episode 47 of GameSpot After Dark. Thank you all so much for joining. And thank you, Jeff, for, I know it's a bit later for you, but we appreciate it. It's been fun.
It's all good. Thank you so much for having me and letting me spend time with everybody. This was a lot of fun for sure.
Of course. This was great. It's a great episode. If you've got any questions for us, you can send them to afterdarkpodcast@gamespot.com, or you can join the Discord, and you can just DM us on Twitter or email that email, and we'll get you in the Discord, and you can ask questions there. Michael, quickly, got anything you're working on this week that you want to let people know about?
Where
people can follow you?
I'm doing a lot of stuff that's under embargo at the moment, so I can't talk about that. But I've been doing a shit ton of Play for All interviews, and you can. Everyone's been putting in so much work for Play for All. We got a lot of stuff up now, and we have a lot of stuff planned for the future. So check all that stuff out. But if you want to find me, you can find me and all of my bullshit at Michael P. Hyam on Twitter. Ooh boy, my timeline is fucking wild. You want games? You want political discourse? You want emo shit? Boy,
I want all that.
You want all of it. You know what you're signing up. I feel bad for the people who follow me, but I love y'all. I appreciate y'all.
For me, there's just a bunch of cyberpunk stuff that's probably already up by now. In fact, it should be by now. So check that stuff out. And there's more stuff coming out over the weekend. Yeah.
Where to follow you?
Oh, at Jacob Deck. Kallie, how about you?
If you want to see a spicy Twitter timeline, do I have the Twitter account for you? You can follow me on Twitter at Inkydojiko, INKYDOJIKKO. I've been going hard, but I'm doing good. And as always, I would humbly request that you read GameSpot's reviews, as that is, I'm kind of on my own island. I haven't done a lot of play for all stuff. I don't really have a lot besides The Last of Us. If you're finishing The Last of Us, it would mean a lot to me if you checked out the spoiler review. I put a lot of work into that, and I am in our spoiler chat where we talk about our interpretation of the ending. So we have a lot of Last of Us stuff that would be awesome. But yeah, I'm now on to Pokemon, I suppose, and onward and upward from there.
Back on your bullshit.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff?
My Twitter's not as spicy, but I have a 5-year-old talking about bug snacks. So if you're into that, that's what I can.
It's very good.
My Twitter handle is at Jeff Bakalar. Yeah, and if you are interested in the wonderful world of pinball, you can follow me. And I try and stream a couple times a month. So I would love for you to join me if that's something you'd be interested in. And yeah, check out the Giant Beastcast if you have not already. And that goes up. Wow, we do it live, so it's just up after it's live now. So it's like Thursday.
Wow, yeah.
What is that? Like Thursday afternoons on the Eastern time. So
yeah, I remember waking up Friday mornings. New Beastcast, let's go. You guys are wonderful. I love the Beastcast. One of my favorite podcasts, man.
I appreciate
you,
that.
Vinny, Abby, Alex are wonderful people.
That look, it's not true for all of us, but yes, for the most part, I would agree. Yeah,
Vinny is our podcast dad. He has a very comforting presence. So, and I appreciate that.
For sure. He's just, you walk into his house and it's just microphones and mixers everywhere. He's just
and woodwork
and woodwork. He is Grandpa Podcast for sure.
Ham radios.
Anyway, that's been episode 47. We'll see y'all next week.